Hi, welcome to PG6's channel. This is going to be kind of a first impressions video on this Smith & Wesson M&P. I've been doing a lot of these here lately just because I want to make videos and I have a lot of shit to review and not a lot of shit reviewed. My plan for this basically is to put a few hundred rounds through it, maybe customize a little bit, and then decide if I really want to keep it or not. I might just sell it and flip it. I was trying to decide if I wanted this or a Glock 17, and I found this on an arms list for $400. I figured, what the hell, I'll give it a shot because I can always get my money back out of it. So far, I like the gun. I like it more than I thought I would. I'd only held one other M&P, and that was years ago. It's a gun that never really interested me after a certain point. These first came out. It was right about the same time I was first getting into handguns, and that was the time that I looked at the M&P 40. So my grandfather actually bought it at a gun show. Kind of a long story, but so I kind of played around with it a little bit then. I don't know, and I saw Glocks and SIGs and wanted one of them instead. And that was all that ever came of it. And I've been, Glock, SIG, Beretta, whatever, ever since. I like Smith & Wesson. In fact, if I had to pick, one company I was only going to own their products, it would probably either be Smith & Wesson or SIG, depending on how I'm feeling that day. They both make some outstanding products. Smith & Wesson, though, they have the Shield. It's a carry gun. They have, the SD9VE as a budget gun, like car gun. They have the M&Ps as your Glock replacement. They have high quality 1911s. They don't really have an aluminum frame double action, single action auto. They just never made one. They had those old steel fuckers, was it 6906 or something like that. Smith & Wesson used to have a horrible numbering system for their guns, which made it virtually impossible to ever talk about them. I'm glad they went to the M&P shit, which is much easier to figure out what the fuck it is you're talking about. But as far as handguns, they got all that shit. They have revolvers, of course. They're Smith & Wesson. If you're going to own a revolver, I would make it a Smith & Wesson. Okay. The Ruger, was it polymer piece of shit? Ruger LCR. Sorry. Oh god, like inhaled dust or something. Anyway, the Ruger LCR is a halfway decent revolver. I own one. It works. I would buy a Smith. That's just me. I like the airweight Smiths when it comes to little J frames, and I like steel frame Smiths when it comes to bigger revolvers. And then, of course, you got Smith's rifle line, which pretty much there's going to be something that you'd want. If nothing else, buy just a standard M&P 15 and customize. The M&P 15 Sport is awesome. That's enough about Smith & Wesson's product line, though. I mean, obviously, they make good shit. And they have good customer service, which is cool. When it comes to the M&P, it doesn't look good. At least I don't think it does. A lot of people are like, well, it looks better than a Glock. I actually think the Glock looks kind of sexy. It's blocky, it's whatever. It's like the difference between 90s cars and cars today. Okay, this looks like a 90s car to me. Not car as in the gun manufacturer, car as in like the mode of transportation. Thought I should clear that up because some of you guys are when it comes to that shit. I'm not going to name any names, but some of you strike me as slow. I'm kidding. I'm talking to you, Sam, if you're watching this. The things I like about it, it came with 3 mags. I'm pretty sure this one is some gun show find or something because it's awful fucking cruddy and it has a different base plate than the others. I don't know if this is an older mag or what's up with it. I'm not ever going to use this as a carry mag just because it's suspect in my mind. These two look like the mags it came with. So I would assume it comes with 2 mags. I may be wrong. The case is decent. A lot of people get like, oh, why do you review the case? Blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make any difference. If you're storing a bunch of guns, the case being halfway decent makes a fucking difference. Not having to go buy a handgun case or something is a bonus, in my opinion. Unless you're just going to put them on a gun rack, which I do. But for years and years and years, I stored guns in a stack of cases in the corner of the room. That's why the case is important. I have access to an SD9 VE. I will be doing a direct comparison video on those 2 guns. It's my grandmother's carry gun, actually. I'll have to borrow it and leave her something else for the day. But a while back, she went, I don't think I can handle my .357 Magnum revolver, which is what she always loved. And she's like, what do you think I should get? I'm like, well, 9mm high cap semi-automatic. She's like, well, I can't rack the slide. I'm like, well, I'll rack it for you. Then you put it in a holster and you don't touch it. Even if you don't reload it, you still will have more rounds in the gun, period, than you did with that revolver. I'm stealing that from James Yeager, but it's absolutely fucking true. Now, if she gets a malfunction or something, she's fucked, but that little Sigma, it's pretty hard to fucking make it not run. It doesn't have a lot of issues that a lot of other guns have, like a, what's that? Limp wristing. So I think, so going resistance, no, that's not right. Limp wristing problems aren't as bad with that gun, in my experience. It's got a little bit weaker spring. It is easier to rack. She can rack it if she tries, so it's kind of just the perfect gun for her. She didn't want to spend much money, and I got her .275 out of her Taurus .357 she had. It was a, I don't remember the model number. It's the same one Never Enough Ammo has. And the Smith & Wesson SD9 was $300, and I had her buy it from a friend of mine who has an FFL, and he gave it to her at cost, which came out to like $300 even with tax, because you still have to pay sales tax because the state of Oklahoma and the federal government has to get their money. Fuckers. I hate sales tax. Anyway, as far as this gun goes, it's very high quality. I mean, it just oozes class in a lot of ways. Polymer's nice. In fact, I would say the build quality on this gun is probably better than a Glock, in my opinion. It does still have that whole you can see straight through it thing that Yankee Marshall always bitches about. It doesn't bother me. One thing I never understood about his little bitch about that is the 1911. You can see straight through. Okay? The only ones you really can't see straight through are like SIGs and CZs. Berettas you can see straight through as well. Anyway, Yankee Marshall's not all there anyway when it comes to a lot of cosmetic stuff. The trigger. It's an interesting one. I hear people bitch all the time. The M&P trigger sucks so bad. I don't see that. I think that's a pretty fucking awesome trigger, actually. The only thing I have to say about it that's different than a Glock is the tilt at the start of it could throw you off, and the reset is non-existent. Not audible, not tactile. And I know a lot of people that shoot off of reset, and including people who, you know, supposedly really know what they're talking about. You need to shoot off reset. Well, you're fucking wrong. How do I know you're wrong? Because if I drop anything other than a Glock in your hands, you can't fucking shoot it. I shot double action, single action SIGs for years, so I'm used to basically trigger finger all the way out, all the way back, all the way out, all the way back, at least on the first shot, and making that whole thing smooth. It's the same thing with revolvers. If you can shoot, you know, a double action gun decent, you can shoot a single action gun very well. Okay, and it's the same thing. Smooth in, smooth out. All the way in, all the way out every time. You follow the trigger until it, You follow the trigger until it stops and you bring it back. And you might say, well, that's slapping the trigger or whatever. No, because your finger never leaves the trigger. That's slapping the trigger. Okay. That's just a pet peeve of mine. Don't shoot off reset. It's a fucking fallacy. And it's not on every gun. So. What else? Oh, interchangeable back straps. I think this is fairly interesting. I mean, this is one of the guns that really, brought this bullshit to the marketplace, and I really don't like it because of that. But of all of the interchangeable back straps, I'd say this system makes the most sense. You can put whichever one on you want. When you're done, you stick the pin back in it. This makes way more sense than the Walther designs, where you have a cross pin holding it in, which by extension is also on the Canik TP9s. And the Glock design is just retarded. It's like covers that cover up the back of their gun. And the other thing I like about the Smith is that your cover fell completely off. Sorry, it still shoots. I mean, in fact, you could shoot this quite well with no grip thing on it at all. I like the small. I have big hands and I like small back straps. I don't know what's up with that. I think it just makes the gun feel better. I see people putting on shit like this all the time and I'm like, why? It's just, making the grip bigger does not help you in any way. Which is why I think the whole interchangeable backstrap thing is kind of bullshit anyway. I really don't like it on guns, but I'm willing to make exceptions if it disappears flawlessly and doesn't interfere with my usage of the gun. Which this does. I mean, and it gives you a fucking punch. Which, the reason they give this to you is to push down the little lever in there. I wouldn't do that I'll explain. Let me put this back. What I mean by the little lever in there, down in there there's a little yellow lever that you can push down so you don't have to dry fire during disassembly. That's stupid, okay? Everyone I know just dry fires during disassembly who has one of these. I would never do that bullshit just because I think it's stupid. There's no reason for it to be there. Glock, I think, has proven that. Other than that, it's a pretty squared away little pistol. I really like the SIG style takedown. I think that's a big plus in my opinion. I don't like the Glock little takedown lever things for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're a pain in the ass to use. I mean, they're there and you can make it work, but this is much easier. Number two, the only thing holding that little thing in, which holds your entire gun together, I might add, is a tiny little flat spring. I've seen on multiple occasions those springs fail, that bar slide out and the whole slide come off your Glock. Glock perfection. Bullshit. Which is why I think in a lot of ways this is an improvement over the Glock. And it gave it a trigger that makes idiots not able to shoot it, so it's like an IQ test. I'm gonna get so much hate over this video. I don't care though. Oh, the sights. Sights are a pain in the ass, and this is probably why I would recommend you buy a Glock. On a Glock, if you have a fucking hammer, you can change the sights to overdo at least XS big dots. On this gun, XS big dots, they only make the one that only has tritium in the front. For some reason, they can't fit a tritium module back here because they're being idiots, I think. They could just make a giant wedge here instead of copying this sight design, but no, they copy this sight design and say, oh, we can't put a tritium vial in it. Gee, thanks. So, I'll be putting 3-dot sights on this gun, not XS, most likely. And number two, the dovetails on the Smiths are really hard, from what I understand. They basically Loctite these fuckers in. Some of the hardest sights to change are the Smith & Wesson M&P. I would call those both negatives. But they do get a positive, is if you had to run this as is, no swapping of sights, these sights are superior to those Glock plastic ones. I've never had an issue with the Glock plastic sights, but all the people who I've heard, badmouth them, it's always just, well, they're plastic, man. And on the rare occasion, well, you'll break them if you go to use them to rack off shit. Well, it's real simple. That's an emergency thing. It's not something you do all the time. I don't just go around like rack my slide on fucking concrete for fun. Okay? If you have plastic sights, don't do that. Problem solved. I mean, if you have, if your hand gets shot or something and you just can't do this anymore, fucking hook it on your belt and do it. I mean, even if you lose the fucking Glock sight, you'll still have the dovetail to hook into. And then on top of that, I said, well, I can't shoot without the rear sight. Well, then you're an idiot. I can't help you. You don't even need a rear sight on a handgun. Okay? You line up the back of the gun and put the front sight on what it is you want to hit. You'll hit, I'd say 90% of the time. The rear sight exists for that 10%. Or shooting, beyond 15 yards. Okay, I think I've rambled on enough in this. I was about to go into another rant on people shooting at 7 yards at an indoor range. I'll save that for another day. I hope you liked the video. I hope you enjoyed my little rambling about the M&P and all things related. Be sure to thumbs up the video, subscribe, and do all the rest of that bullshit. See you later.